Well, so we want to welcome you to Crouch's Crypto Corner. We meet every Friday at 9:30 Eastern time, and we are the longest running crypto conversation in the Carolinas, joined by some of the greatest minds in South Carolina and across the United States to talk about subjects that are near and dear to us, mainly in the crypto space. But we always start off with a little market report from Patty, and we'll let her take the stage, and then Jordan and I may discuss just a little bit. I've followed the crypto a little bit this week, but we'll play with that, and then we'll get into the meat of the matter. We're trying to wrap this baby up at 10:15. Let's see how we do. All right, Miss Patty.
Okay. The market is up mildly this morning, but overall, over the last 5 days, it's been down. And I would say that that's due to the oil prices rising, bond yields rising, and worries about inflation and what the Fed is going to do in September. They still haven't ruled out, what do you call it, a price hike, which seems silly at this point. And Walmart reported earnings, and they did not do well, and the stock sold off like 10%. So it was kind of given a picture of gloom and doom about the consumer, especially the low end consumer. So over the past 5 days, the Dow is down 1.2%, about 640 points. The S&P is down 2.12%, 165, just under 165 points. NASDAQ is down 2.92, 784 points. And the Russell's down 1.98%. That's about 60 points. So the Russell's below 3,000. Let's see, this morning it's right at 3,000. The NASDAQ is down a little more than 1,000 points from its high. And once the S&P kind of butts up against that 7,700, it retreated. And I think the Dow is down more than 1,000 points as well. So the dollar has weakened since, let's see, on the 19th, which was, oh my God, that was yesterday. Yesterday it was 99.643. That was the high for the week. It dropped to 98.656. So when the dollar weakens, that's good for equities. The 10-year was up 4.748 on Tuesday, and that's when I'll get to an announcement that the Treasury is going to buy back Treasuries and the whole point was to bring down the 10-year bond yield. Well, it did drop that day, but yesterday it went right back up to 4.69. Well, 4.7. This morning it was at 4.696. So it's still hovering around where it was on Tuesday. Crude oil is back up to 86. Now I'm talking about West Texas, 86.77. I look back last Friday, it was 81.27 when the market opened. So it's up $5.50 in a week. And gold and silver have done great. Gold is up 4.52%, that's $201, and silver is up 6.31%. So it's the best out of everything. It was up only $4.15, but it's about to hit $70 again. It's at 69.87. So what happened on Tuesday was Scott Bessent announced that um, the Treasury will double.
Yes.
Okay, is the Treasury is going to double its repurchase of long dated Treasuries, like the 30-year bond.
Right.
He didn't specifically say the 30, just long dated. Anything above
2 years.
2 years. And so go from 2 billion a month to 4 billion, and that's going to start on September 9th and run through November 4th. So that's going to inject a lot of new money into the market. And I'm not going to try to guess one of the reasons, but I thought we should cover that the debt has exceeded 40 trillion for the first time.
Hmm.
And I think this morning it was 40.05 when I was looking for the number.
Who's looking
And
at the debt clock?
Yeah,
Can tell us. Somebody, I'm sure, will be looking at the debt clock. But
right.
yeah, kind of a mile marker, huh? $40 trillion debt.
It's so crazy. So the annual government spending continues to outpace the tax revenues by 2 trillion a year. Um, I looked up like what's the administration's plan, or do they have a plan? And I think this is when they confirmed Besant. His big idea was, well, we'll just boost growth, and if we can get the GDP higher, then we would be able to grow our economy faster than the debt accumulates. We'll see if that actually pans out, because really the only growth is in AI, the growth of data centers and the chip. So, and
Man,
then that leads into your discussion later today.
Hey,
That's it.
just one thing, Patty. So I saw the Walmart thing. It was their same store sales that was lower, but their e-commerce is starting to catch up with Amazon. So their e-commerce is doing much better than their online. I mean, their brick and mortar stores. I saw.
Okay, yeah, I didn't get into the dealings. I mean the details of it.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
I
they
just
did
saw that
have it.
one.
They had an
And
increase in revenue, but they there was a reduction in the amount that they. Oh yeah, so their U.S. comparable sales increased 2.6, but marked a slower pace of growth, which I guess scared the market. And
right,
okay, and you're saying e-commerce sales grew by 23%,
right.
and advertising revenue jumped 38%. Hmm.
Yeah, that's the other thing that they're looking at. I mean, so they can't compete with Amazon on advertising because of Prime Video, but they were delving into the Vizio market, I think, trying to get advertising there.
Hmm.
Um, which I mean, is just a side note. Sorry.
No, I mean
yeah.
that's noteworthy. So the headwinds that they noted, there's a 2 billion anticipated fuel cost that they're going to, I guess, higher than what they're paying now, as fuel goes up. Now that could, if fuel falls, maybe they'll do better next quarter. But that when it lost 10% yesterday, it kind of pulled down all retail, Costco, everybody.
Hmm.
Yeah, and just kind of
Yeah.
rattled the market. If you weren't
Yeah.
in crypto yesterday, you had crypto, silver, and gold was great yesterday and Wednesday. But if you're
Yeah.
in regular stocks, you're like, oh my God, the sky's falling. Yeah.
Except for Master. I mean, MicroStrategy.
Well, I consider
Strategy.
Bitcoin. Yeah.
Yeah, because of his Bitcoin.
Hmm.
So, so Jordan, you with me? I hadn't prepped you or anything, but you want to just you with us there for a second?
Yeah,
So
like
we
I
did have a little bump up, didn't we?
yeah, we did.
In crypto, and he's going to step away. I did see this of interest. The Bitcoin shorts, with the rise in Bitcoin in the middle of the week, the Bitcoin shorts wiped out, oh gosh,
Over
what did I
4
say,
billion.
2 billion?
No, it's higher than that. It
It
went
was
up
higher.
because I guess people hung on and thought, oh, for sure it's going to
Yeah.
drop, and it continued to go up. So it added another 2 billion.
And there's interest, if it goes above 80K, Bitcoin goes above 80K, then it'll wipe out another $3.6 billion in shorts.
Well, why
So
don't they buy it back today? They don't need
uh,
to wait.
I don't deal in that market.
I don't either, but that was foolish to short it. Hmm.
So yeah. But anyway, so anything else, Jordan? You got anything on? I see where XRP went up 30 some percent. Sorry I didn't get in on that, but that's the way it goes.
Ha!
There's still plenty of time.
There
XRP.
you go. That's the attitude.
My buddy's mom asked us about XRP the other day, which is like
Oh
a
no.
talking about crypto. It's just things are definitely, more people are definitely seeing different things all over the place. Without bias, I mean, I don't care what they're seeing. I just know that they're seeing more crypto related products.
So it is positive right now. Let me just say this. We're going to switch over to Dennis in a second, but um, I had a conversation with a friend. He had he had a friend that wanted to get into crypto, got in and got burned. And my advice is do your homework and do it carefully in the crypto space. If you're thinking you see something that's a great opportunity, just check it out and ask a few friends, ask around, ask us on this call or after this call because it's not financial advice. But I'm just that upset me that this particular person lost, not under $100,000, but it was only slightly under $100,000, and it was wiped out very quickly. So I'm very distressed by that news, but it does raise that flag again that if you're in the crypto space, do your own homework and know before you buy. And this is a great place that everybody on this call has a good feel um, for things you might be able to do or hold it and just, bide your time. Anyway, that's enough of my BS on that. But why don't we, Dennis? I'm going to bring you in here. You've got a number of things going. Let's cover those kind of quickly, and then we'll jump into first of all the if you looked at the flyer I sent out, you saw there was a big knife in the Clarity Act, um, and so I don't know what's going to happen with that, but I don't think it's got much life in it. But anyway, we'll see. But we'll talk about that in a minute. Dennis, you want to tune us in on what's going on with you? You're gonna have to unmute everybody. Let's see, Dennis, you're
Well,
not
while
listening
he's
to me.
unmuting, the Clarity
There we
Act
go.
is not dead. They scheduled a cloture vote in September.
Right.
Well, we'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah, let me just kind of, I'll hit the highlights, of the federal side, and then bring it down to what's happening here.
So Dennis is with SCETA, which is a South Carolina Emerging Tech Association, and he's writing and working on a lot of different projects in the space, not just crypto, but he he's going to brief us a little bit about what's going on in his world.
Boy, I feel like I've never been here before. Thank you, George.
Well, they've got some new faces.
Feeling very welcome here this morning. Yeah, no, but just kind of hit it from the high level first, and we'll bring it down to the local level. There are a few things that really are worth watching. This week we've seen the Genius Act show back up, and with the legislation at the federal level, we're going to get clarity one way or the other. Through the CFTC and regulatory actions. It's just really a matter of whether we can, whether that's going to be codified, so that Congress can't come in later and change it. So I think that's really what we saw yesterday, with the big bounce in Bitcoin and crypto across the board. But the Treasury has issued, a major proposal of rule, dealing with Section 3 of the Genius Act. That's essentially determining who can issue a payment stablecoin in the United States. We'll be weighing in on that, from the state standpoint and providing comments. The On the 21st, there was also the comment deadline for the interagency proposed customer identified requirements, for permitted payment stablecoin issuers. So that's another big step. The whole idea here is we're going to build a regulated stablecoin system that really preserves the innovation while making compliance, technologically efficient, rather than simply importing the legacy banking architecture, into blockchain. So, that I mean, and Patty, I mean, to your point earlier about what the plan is. I mean, I think the plan has always been, to get stable coins, basically, to create that new market for treasuries so that we can continue, with a marketplace for treasuries. I mean, and rather than, the hard landing, that could have come about by the entire market crashing. And, I think that's the other side of the Bitcoin story, that, the pundits on the Bitcoin side are saying, okay, it's just a matter of when, rather than, whether it's going to happen or not. So those are interesting forces that are, obviously impacting, the entire economy, much less just the crypto economy. Clarity and market structure, that's the next big step. We didn't get the Clarity Act passed, but, it is coming back up for a vote, cloture. That's what we're anticipating. The White House is putting additional pressure on Congress this week to move that bill.
Dennis,
They had
can I
crypto
interrupt one second?
meeting.
Tuesday, September 15th. I put it on the calendar.
So,
Right.
Dennis, can I interrupt? Because that, as long as we've got that conversation going, can you tell us what cloture is, or can you tell us what that significance is of cloture and what goes on if it happens, if it doesn't happen? Can you, as far as the Clarity Act goes, or anybody else who wants to
I can
take
answer
it,
that
just
in
to
one
explain
sentence.
it.
Yeah, go ahead, Patty. I mean, obviously, it's going to be.
It limits the amount of time that a legislator or senator can stand at the podium and talk about the legislation, peried. So they know that they can
cloture
actually get.
We don't have a filibuster. We don't just sit there, ad nauseum, and just kill the bill.
Yeah.
Is there any predictive market or Kalshi prediction on whether cloture will pass or not? Just out of curiosity, anybody who's got Kalshi open or predictive markets open, be kind of interesting. Okay, I'm
I
sorry,
haven't looked
but
at that.
anyway,
Yesterday it was at 10%, but it could have changed.
a chance of that it would pass.
It went down to 10% as of, well, maybe it was Wednesday, but it could change, of course.
Exactly, and we got several weeks before all that, but I get okay. Dennis, didn't mean to interrupt, but you were talking about it, and I thought maybe it's a little clarity there. And there's a
good
reason
break
why I'm
point. I
doing
mean,
this. So
that funneling this back down to what it actually means for South Carolina. We have S-163 now is law in South Carolina, so we have some clear framework that impacts a lot. But obviously the protections for lawful digital asset transactions, mining nodes, digital assets, cannot simply be singled out, for discriminatory tax treatment. States prohibited from participating in a CBDC test or requiring CBDC payments. I mean, that was the big, really the big thing that put that bill over. And a lot of, I mean, I could safely say that most of our lawmakers don't understand what they did, but they did understand that, and that carried that bill through. All the while we're in the Senate debates on and the hearings for data centers, we were able to quietly kind of get that bill done, and and how it impacts the data center debate next year is really what we're working on now, because it does provide the underlying framework for the data centers, and we actually saw that.
This is signed by the governor. It is Bill 163, right?
Right.
Okay. Just
now, I mean, you'll see that if you're following the data center, news, which obviously I'm pinned to it in South Carolina. The Clarendon County, just announced, I think it's $150 million investment, for a 15 megawatt facility in an industrial park that, and they're waiting on a load study to confirm that they can accommodate that capacity. I'm actually doing a piece right now for the newsletter that I just introduced, the South Carolina Digital Ledger. The link in the meeting chat is from the email that we sent out, so I'll try to get a cleaner link in there for everybody to subscribe to. But the point is that there are different types of data centers, and in this particular case study really provides the example of just that. I mean, we're running analysis on the potential benefits, the numbers I'm working on right now for every dollar in incentives that the state offers. We're getting $9 back on a conservative estimate, based on just a whole number of things. So, and then had a long conversation last night with Tim Scott's administrative aide in Charleston. She kind of cued me into a lot of the problems we've had in the local, in the small towns, the rural towns. So I ran some inferences based on that, and and lo and behold, the need for literally crumbling sewer systems, in Clarendon County, is a huge moneymaker. They have no revenues of any significance, no increases in their budgets, so minor increases in their budgets actually, but fewer increases in uh, uh, tax
Right.
revenues. So,
Well,
that's really I mean,
yeah.
that's the untold story here is not, the water resources and the electricity use and, and not bringing enough jobs, because, when you really start digging into it, it's just the opposite. So getting that message out is part of what we're trying to do this
Yeah.
week and next week. So,
Well, we'll work
I mean,
on that.
overall, we've got
What's going on?
I mean, the game plan here is we build a state, with energy, compute, capital, policy all working together, and then looking at individual rights. I mean, that's what we're going to be doing tomorrow night at the Dorchester GOP. We're unveiling our digital Bill of Rights. Representative Greg Ford will be sponsoring that. That's a big deal. The whole idea is how we really, I mean, the part of the marketing approach here is that, South Carolina led in the American Revolution. Every county in the state has, some tie to that. How do we leverage that into the fight for digital privacy and freedom, and
Yeah.
and today during the digital revolution? So,
All
I'll hand
right.
it back to you.
Well, thank you very much. Dennis, you got so much on your plate. It's amazing, but and
Thank God for
you
AI is
keep
all I could say.
producing.
I mean, I've been twiddling my thumbs this year if it wasn't for,
So
the amount of technology that we're able to,
yeah,
bring to
it's
the table
amazing
now.
going on. But I did want to shift over a little bit. We talked about the Clarity Act, talked about cloture. The um, cloture, if it's passed, then clarity gets a little bit of life. I think if cloture does not pass, and it sounds like right now the chances are slim to none, then I don't think clarity gets put on the docket or on the ability for the Senate to vote on it. So um, that's we'll just see what happens. But I think what is going to happen is that the two, the SEC and the CFTC will step in and they'll start crafting some legislation, not legislation, but some rules, and then maybe, and I think Dennis mentioned this, was that if all that is rules. If another administration comes in and wants to put some other Clarity Act rules in place, it will override whatever's done by the SEC or the CFTC. So I just, I'm sorry, but I don't think we got much chance for the Clarity Act. But that's just me. But anybody else
Well,
want to chime in on the Clarity Act or care
I
about it?
did look up the cloture rule specifically. So no senator can speak for more than an hour, and 15 hours is given to the Democrats and 15 to the Republicans. For and
Okay.
against. Yeah.
So then, boom, and then it's let's vote.
Yeah, 30 hours is just a day. Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
that's one day in the Senate. So
Well, I think the point though is that we're going to get rules, okay, one way or
yes,
the other.
that's right.
Treasury is, they recognize the absolute, I mean, I don't think they're going to come out, with a panic statement by any means. But if you saw the, Bessett's post this morning, Robert Reich, opined on, basically the state of everything, and I mean, Bessett just eviscerated him. I mean, it was amazing. Never seen
Yeah.
anything like that. Yeah. So the pushback's coming. There's no question about it. But the administration is on track to get this done. Well, I'd say on
Good.
track. I mean, they'd hope to have it done, by July. But we're going to get clarity one way or the other.
There you go. That's the attitude. All right. Well, let's. So I asked a couple of people to look at a couple of things on this, what we're calling this AI bubble. And I think that's gotten a lot of people's, every time say those words, AI bubble, people sort of, perk up and start head nodding about a potential AI bubble. And so we talked about this several weeks ago and referenced the AI financial loop of how the parties that are in this space shift the money around, so to speak. And anybody who wants to sort of take a lead on this and maybe talk about it a little bit, I just open it up because you don't want to hear me talk about it. Some other person who might be able to give us a little more insight into it, if Craig or Paul or Jerry want to dive into it. And is there an AI bubble? Is it fabricated? Are we gonna see a downturn like we did in the bubble, the dot-com bubble back in the late 90s?
Yes,
You think so?
definitely.
Again, this is just conversation. This is
So
not
Patty
anything
Pierce's
about,
prediction is 110% that is going to happen.
wow.
Yeah,
I think
George, I read an article about this yesterday, oddly enough, and what they were saying was it there's a strategy that the CEO of NVIDIA has been using, right? Which is basically an investment begets more investment strategy. So, because NVIDIA is at the center of all the circular money promises, because
Right.
a lot of it, some of it moves. Like
$4.5 trillion.
NVIDIA's,
If you look at that flyer I sent, yes.
yeah. But NVIDIA's actually invested money early on. A lot of these other things are announcements of
Okay.
maybe 20
But
billion,
the
40 billion,
fact
whatever,
is the
right?
model has been duplicated.
No,
It's not just
well,
a
well,
NVIDIA.
if the people with money have all bought into the idea that investment begets more investment, which is true, like that's been proven for hundreds of years at this point, um, then that is a deliberate strategy by Jensen Huang. I think that's how you pronounce his name at
Yeah.
NVIDIA, and it's a question as to how well it's going to pay off. Obviously, NVIDIA is not going bankrupt anytime soon, right?
No.
Um, but the open question is, especially with I think the flock dust up is more of a tell than anything else. Are these data center projects going to collapse? Because that's where the speculative investment is.
Okay.
Right now,
Jerry, do you
my
want to
bet.
jump in on that? Or do you want
I
to?
agree. I think it's a typical Wall Street herd mentality. Whenever anyone starts flocking to a particular investment, then the herd follows. And then also in the reverse, once there's liquidation events starting.
He run for the door.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Jerry, sure, Jerry, go ahead.
Um, I think it's fair to say that when you get a new technology, you get these kinds of booms and rapid increases in prices, and then they get ahead of themselves, is one way of putting it. That is, they get carried away. And so then they fall. It's like I told you the other day, though. I think the really tricky bit in all of this is when is it going to happen? The fact is you don't know. Because if you knew, you'd short the stocks,
It's
and then
going
it
to
would
happen
fall
next summer.
already. And what is it going to fall from to? And the answer is nobody really knows.
Mm.
I mean, you can put together indicators in any particular case that give you some idea of what's going on, but it's incredibly difficult to forecast because you're basically trying to forecast technological change, and that's largely unpredictable.
Especially with AI and predictive markets.
Yes.
There you go.
Well, if you, we don't have time to get into the astrology, but astrology always studies cycles, and we just started the cycle between 2007, 2009, and 1930 to 1927 to 1933. They're overlapping, so there will be a downturn, and it's probably next summer.
Again, not financial advice, but Paul, go
Well,
ahead. I'd love
that's
to.
star advice.
There you go. That's right. Thank you, Patty.
Mhm.
Couple things that I've kind of read. Is CapEx being treated as revenue by some of these companies? I've read some articles that yes, it is. And if so, the last time that that happened was the dot-com bubble. Number two, Oracle credit default swap spreads are basically pricing in a higher probability of default than companies had during the housing bubble in 08 and 09. A majority of Microsoft revenue is booked from OpenAI, which we know is unprofitable. That's just 3 data points.
Right.
Okay.
Those are all good points. You know what? One thing, George, that we forgot to mention is Anthropic and OpenAI is what's holding this whole AI bubble together. And China is creating these open, very inexpensive open source models that even I think it's Microsoft or Google has requested permission to use. So it's going to undermine the cost that Anthropic and AI are charging now if it's like a tenth of the cost. Yeah.
So there's one thing I'll add to that. I actually shared this video with George. I saw it on I actually saw it on LinkedIn this morning, but it's a gentleman who's like on some like talk show and he's speaking in Spanish.
Right.
And he's making a joke out of this, saying like, "Hey, I pay Claude $20 a month for
200.
$800 in compute."
Yeah.
And how are they going to make that money back? So a lot of these are unprofitable ventures. But there's a guy, I think I've shared some videos. There's a guy, Felix Preen. He's like a former trader. Look, we actually had a break in the system over this past 7 days, right? So since the beginning of the year, he's been talking about Japanese bonds, right? What role Treasury and the Fed would play. Really AI and then interest rates. So we have a slowing economy where interest rates are starting to rise. You had Japanese bonds crack. The Fed had to step in, or the Treasury had to step in. You had the Korea, there were circuit breakers triggered in Korea around the AI trade. And kind of in addition to that, JD Vance came out and did an interview and said that, being the world's reserve currency is actually a curse for us. So
Really?
we're
Yeah,
we're
I
we're,
saw
we're
that
moving
too.
into a
He
new
doesn't know
monetary
anything
order.
about
That's what it is.
economics.
Right.
Can you share that link, or is there some information you can provide on that? Or what is Felix's last name?
Felix Preen.
Spell
How do
that.
you spell the Preen last name?
Hold on. I'll share the Twitter link in the
Craig, did you
chat.
want to jump in a
Thank
second
you.
while he's looking? Great.
I mean, I agree with all the points that's been made. I mean, what I feel it's a little unique about this situation, and it gets back to Jerry's comment about predictability. I mean, historically, this isn't something new, right? We've had companies that's had cash and they've tried to do their, funding of their either supply chain or some other mechanism to help prolong their cycle. What NVIDIA has is that they're pumping all this cash into these partnerships, and then the partnerships are turning right back around with that same cash and buying their products. So
Yeah.
I don't disagree. I definitely think there's a bubble. The question is, how long can they prolong? Well, historically we may have been. I'm just throwing a number out. 18-month cycle if you have a crash, versus now you've got this circular reference that prolongs that cycle of inevitability. There's going to be a crash. It's just no one, back to, I'll pick on Jerry's point, we'd all be shorting it because you just know it's going to happen. You got Paul Tudor Jones coming out talking about the earnings, the S&P being 200% of GDP. So everything's so elevated. And unless there's some manipulation, it's got to crash. There's got to be a downturn sometime. It's just,
Can
is
I
it
say,
prolonged because of this cash?
I
The
just
way,
want to reference that you
yeah,
just said an 18-month cycle, and that is exactly the cycle of the North
yeah,
Lunar nodes. They change every 18 months, and they
yeah,
just changed on Tuesday. So South lunar node's in Leo, North lunar node is in Aquarius. And
Every person in 2000 knew it was going to crash. No one knew when.
Yeah.
And what happened
Exactly.
was everybody that had money that was in tech put the money in at the top because they got tired of waiting for the crash and they had missed the run. This is
Yeah.
the pattern. And you have to be
Yeah.
really careful extrapolating numbers for AI because almost no business ever, with the exception of retail, makes money on consumer. The Anthropic makes all of their money on the business to business. That's how businesses make real money. So if you're dealing with businesses with large capitalization, they're not getting large capitalization on consumer sales. That's not happening. The fact that you can buy Claude cheap is a gift from Anthropic, and you can't reproduce that with a Chinese model because, and here's a little trick for everybody, you can go into one of the big models and you can say, summarize all the well, I use it for formulas, all the math formulas in this book that you don't own. And it will spit them all out. It'll put them in code if you're a software engineer like I am, or it will give you a summary of all the points. You can't do that with the Chinese models because they don't have the data. This is all a data play. So don't worry about whether or not some cheap model comes around and is better at organizing data unless you're running it locally. So that only helps the consumers at the bottom who pay regular dollars, but then you have to set it up locally, and that requires technical knowledge. So the Chinese thing is not going to help anything because the money
right.
in the people who got
It's
the
more
books
vertical.
put them in the system.
Yeah, Mark's absolutely right. The local models are more vertical, so you're going to get a much smaller subset of what's going on instead of the frontier model. We're also presupposing that the large language model is the end game in this situation and that something else doesn't come out. And we have just about stretched along the large language model as far as it will go. So to get real intelligence, we are going to have something else.
And that's what's interesting. Jensen's also he's not against the Chinese open models, which I think it's back to he's betting on the data centers, because if you open it up, you still have to have all that compute. It's just going to keep pushing his narrative that the data center, they've got to keep investing in data centers to keep up with the demand of compute and adoption. Yeah.
It's interesting. Like the fiber overbuilding and the railroad overbuilding, those are the two comparisons. You overbuild and you don't realize you've overbuilt until you're at that point. And the same thing will happen with the data centers.
Why don't you jump in, Paul?
Absolutely.
And then
what I'm saying is that all this stuff that we're actually talking about, there's kind of one train of thought there that I know we were talking about the Clarity Act, and we're kind of saying that it's dead on arrival, but it's dead on arrival because the senators don't want the administration to win or whatever. They're holding on to the current paradigm. Well, the SEC and the CFTC could force the hand, so at which point everyone would kind of come back to the table because they're like, well, hey, it's going to get passed anyway, so we might as well try to get something. But let's not forget. Perhaps it's a crisis or this bubble popping that would usher in crypto adoption, because if you have a liquidity crunch, well, there are two cryptos out there that have regulatory clarity. That's BTC and XRP because of the lawsuit, right? So they can step in and play a role, and immediately it's like you can have the adoption without the laws.
There you go. So let me hear if Frank wants to speak. Frank, if you want to say something, Marshall, if you'd like to say something, and then let's wrap this baby up.
I want to say one more thing before we're done too.
All right. Anybody else?
Yeah, I can give a couple thoughts. I mean, my thoughts are, without getting too deep into it. I mean, if you look at the dot-com bubble, right? Was it actually long-term a bubble? If you're Yahoo, yes. If you're Apple, no. So if there is a market correction, I think instead of the kind of apocalypse that I think everybody's assuming, I think what you'll see is a correction that will kind of separate the winners from the losers. As you've seen in the past, if you're kind of looking at the dot-com bubble. I don't think Nvidia is going anywhere long-term. I think that there's going to be some data center developers who do good work. There's also some who do bad work. I think if you were to talk to anybody who knows that market well, I think they could probably tell you who the winners are and who the losers are. And I think if you see a correction, that's going to be something that you'll see. There have been a lot of good deals signed. There's been a lot of bad deals signed. And I think any real correction would separate your winners from your losers.
Yeah, let me just make a
Corrections
But
real
do.
quick comment too. If you remember, I mean, I remember the dot-com bubble. Obviously, just getting a domain name, rocketed its valuations, simply because you were, considered a category killer. In this case, I mean, we have real applications that are already operating. Night and day difference, And one of the comments I heard that really made sense to me on the markets themselves is that we're starting to see a shift out of tech, into broader markets. I mean, that's bringing down the valuations, and things like Nvidia and some of the high flyers right now. So, that shift may be actually going on right now. And how it repositions. If the administration continues to grow the marketplace, we bring manufacturing and the onshoring starts coming in. I mean, there's a lot of money still sitting on the sidelines waiting to go to work. So,
30 trillion.
I'm an eternal bull, and I mean, the glass is always half full for me. So
There you go.
Well, okay, but the companies can be in business, that's fine. But if we're talking about the stock market, 40% of the S&P is AI related trades. 70% is NASDAQ. So if there is a hiccup or whatever, and we have a big pullback, it's going to be severe. So the company Nvidia will still be working, but their stock could go back down to $20.
Oh God. All right. Well, let's just it's 20 after the hour.
Let
I
me
do
bring
like to
up
kind
one
of
more
wrap it
point real
up, but
quick.
Jordan did want to say something, and anybody else want to jump in quickly? Go
Somebody
ahead,
wants to say
Jordan.
something.
It's kind of off the topic we're at right now. I kind of just want to go back to the price of Bitcoin real quick because it's been a big week. We jumped over 25% in a week, and you don't see that often anymore. The last time we jumped 25% was earlier this year. I think it was March. We had a big run, and that kind of kicked off this bull run that we've been on. Let me kind of zoom in on my chart real quick to kind of get a better.
Hasn't felt like a bull run for 11 months.
Well,
This week has
we've been going up, and this whole thing that's going on right now brings me back to 2021. We went on we had a big jump, and then we went up to the 60,000s, which were the all-time highs at the time. Went on a small little bull run in the summer of 21. And then towards the end of the year for October, which is kind of, Bitcoin terminology, October, historically a more uptime, we went back up and kind of passed all-time highs again. But then we went on a 2-year bear market. And without the solidity, Bitcoin went up yesterday because the dollar's dying. Everyone says we're buying more, we're pushing more money out into the treasury, all that stuff. It's economics why Bitcoin's going up today. But I would not be smashing all in, thinking we're going on some astronomical bull run yet. And
That's
I'm
right.
just really just telling people to protect themselves. I'm
Thank
I'm
you.
all in. I never sell,
There you go.
but I watch the patterns. I've been here for a long time. And until you start getting things, which I'm not even pro Clarity Act and all this nonsense and stuff, the clarities, you already know what it is. You already know what it is. You don't need your slave masters to fucking give you clarification.
All
But
right.
well,
All right.
the injection of 6 billion new dollars into the treasury is going to have a lot of cash sloshing around, and that's why I think Bitcoin has at least a run through Thanksgiving.
I agree. I
Yeah.
agree. I think there's going to be a run. I hope everybody rides it.
There you go.
But just remember, none of the runs are forever. And I really don't think there's going to be major change, like up moves until towards the end of the decade.
All right, Paul, you want to chime in, or anybody else want to get a last few words in? it's
I mean,
time for us to wrap it up, but go ahead.
I wanted to comment on that. I think what we're seeing is we're seeing the decay and really decline of fiat. And Caitlin Long and all these other people that were that we're interviewing in this conference. George, I shared with you some of the
You
I
did.
shared with you some of the videos. I mean, for those that thought that the whole U.S. debt clock thing or that website was like, hey, all right, maybe this is kind of a shot in the dark, or it's not. There's not a lot of legitimacy to it. Well, guess what made mainstream news this week? What made it on Fox News? The U.S. debt clock.
Yeah.
And so Caitlin Long and these other folks at these conferences have made it pretty clear that the Treasury is now ahead of the Fed, which we haven't had in a long time, right? It's really been the Fed that's been running the show, so they're taking a back seat,
Mhm.
and Besant is making his moves. So
Yep.
it's a death of fiat, but in my opinion, it's actually a rise of the Treasury dollar.
Well,
And
I want to say one thing before we get off the phone because Besant, I'm not sure all of his moves are great. Like
what?
purchasing July 31st, he went over to Japan and said, "Hey, we're going to buy your yen because we don't want you to sell our treasuries." And to accomplish that, he sold French bonds, which totally ticked off Europe, France in particular. So that kind of move is that is not what our government should be doing, intervening in someone else's currency. Yeah,
Hmm.
so I
All
didn't think
right.
that was a smart move.
That's
All
the
right.
America First concept, right?
What?
I just want to remind everybody, our forum is September 17th in Charleston. Mike Green and I had an opportunity to converse before we got on, and I think Mike, Mike's going to be making an appearance in Charleston, so a lot of good news coming
Yay.
up.
All right.
Yes,
Let me just
yes,
say
I will
this.
make an appearance.
Yeah.
There
Ah!
you
And
go.
wear your best suit there, Mike.
I have to wear my best
The
suit.
yeah,
Oh.
the tan trousers with the blue blazer. That's your best suit.
Anytime it's over 100
All right.
degrees,
Uh,
I never
let's
wear
do
a tie.
this. And this is recorded. This is going to go on my YouTube channel. It's a great conversation, and so you'll have access to it if you'd like to go back and listen to all these learned folks speak again on your own time. So why don't we end this baby and let's say have a great weekend. And football's coming around soon, and we've got one more um, um, session, and that's next Friday. Then we'll take a little break for Labor Day, but that's just give us a little time to get away on Friday early. So I'll talk to y'all later, and thank you so much. Bye
All right.
now.
Thanks, George.
Good.
Bye.
Thank
Have a
you.
great weekend.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you, George.
Thank you.